Flight bus, bitch. You know, for sure. You know, listen to the Mind of an Aries Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And since today Tuesday, we might as well talk about today's ruler, which is Mars. Now, for the most part, breaking down Mars, we're going to talk about it going through each sign. Mars through each zodiac sign. So you could kind of understand Mars from a broader perspective. But before we get there, we got to talk about Mars as an individual. Now, when we talk about each star, each planet, each star has a masculine and feminine side. So when we talk about Mars, Mars has a masculine and Mars has a feminine side. Now let's talk about masculine and feminine before we start to break down each spectrum of Mars, right? When we talk about 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional wise, as far as esoterically, right? The feminine nature is more related to what y'all want to call, or the offspring of the feminine energy signature will be what y'all want to quote unquote call negativity in the 3rd dimension, or the negative spectrum of the electric currents that y'all want to create, copying the frequency vibration of the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension. And then when you want to talk about the masculine energy, it is what y'all would call in the 3rd dimension positivity, or the positive electric charge, or the pushing out energy, or you know what I'm saying, the pushing out, the forceful and pushing out. And then, you know, the negative or the feminine, which will be negative in the 3rd dimension, how y'all want to call it, low vibrational wise, will be the receiving, the magnetism of it. So when we talk about it just being energy signatures, esoteric wise, in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension, when we look at Mars, right, Mars feminine natures will be in the 3rd dimension, your desires, passions, motivations. You see what I'm saying? Your motives, your intentions, your alternative motives. You see what I'm saying? And I think I said your passions. So that's all dealing with, you know, the feminine nature. Because right there, when you look at that, all that is more back to supported and is more related to the receiving energy. And the receiving energy is an offspring of the negative energy, and the negative energy is an offspring of the feminine energy. See what I'm saying? Now, when we get into the masculine portion of Mars in the 3rd dimension, now in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension, it's masculine, but in the 3rd dimension, y'all will call it the positive. Now, as far as here, this is pushing out. So this spectrum of Mars will be the anger, the aggression. You see what I'm saying? The transformation, the redshift, the ability to want to move forward through any obstacle or circumstance or situation. So that would be the masculine portion of Mars down. So in the 3rd dimension, this is what y'all will call as positive, or pushing out, or forceful energy. So when you want to correlate this, right, now it's bouncing back and forth in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension based upon its state of being, and the space and location is vortexing in based upon angle by default, right? It came from the spaces and the location of the 8th and the 1st house. So this lets you know where Mars got accumulated from. This is how it gets manifested. And since we know in all natures the feminine energy comes first before the masculine energy, then this kind of lets you know that the 8th house was created before the 1st house. This lets you know that Scorpio was created before Aries. You know what I'm saying? So this lets you know why it's like a lot of astrologers would say Mars was the ruler, but Pluto is the ruler now. But when you want to get to the distant planets, right, the long distance planets, they can only be co-rulers by default, just based upon space and location. So based upon space and location, by default, they can only be co-rulers, influences. They can only give their fluid, their current wave, as an influence, as a perspective through the filter system that's closer to you. And the filter system that's closer to you is the group of stars of what you want to call Scorpio and Aries. But for the most part, when we talk about Mars in general, and it have created the the feminine energy is first, so you have to go towards each star. Each planet has a masculine and feminine side to it. So the Scorpios play out the feminine side of Mars, Aries play out the masculine side of Mars. Now here's the thing, right? We're in a realm of reality where everything is in reverse. So in the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension, what you would perceive as right or wrong down here is in reverse. So for the most part, like I said, the feminine is gave offspring and gave birth to what y'all want to call negative or receiving down here as far as the expansion and contraction area. So this is more related to the contraction also. So it's more first, it's more apparent. So when you think about your desires, the feminine natures of Mars, you're thinking about your desires, passions, motivations, intentions, your alternative motives. All that is more related to the feminine and receiving, right? In this 3rd dimension, y'all look at that as more is greater than, because anytime y'all in a circumstance and situation of receiving, more than giving, you look at that as a positive situation. Anytime you're in a circumstance or a situation where you have to give more than receive, you look at that more as a negative circumstance or situation. So now you have to look at the masculine energy and how it plays off in the third dimension. Anytime you give off the positive energy, when it correlates to Mars, that's anger or aggression or transformation or redshift. That's pushing off the energy. That's taking what's internal and pushing it out. Now, that's seen as negative in the third dimension, because anytime you're around somebody who's too angry, too overwhelming, too aggressive, you look at that in the negative aspect. So that's kind of getting you to kind of understand that from the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, compared to the first, second, and third dimension, everything is flipped up and reversed, looked at different, almost to the point that when you look at something, it's by default you're looking at it in reverse. So when you look at a person right arm, their right arm is on the same side as your right arm, unless y'all looking at the same thing and y'all in single file line and not looking at each other. So you see what I'm saying? Things go very deep when we talk about these attributes and aspects. So in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension wise, it will be the other way around. Too much receiving will be negative the way it's supposed to be, because it's related to the feminine energy, and pushing out will be more positive, and giving will be more positive. So giving your idea, giving your creation, giving your thought, emitting, that's more positive in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. But everything is in reverse in the third dimension, based upon what y'all have created as far as realities and physical shapes and forms, and what y'all have cleaned. How much y'all have cleaned yourself onto these things, y'all perceive it in different ways now. So what you think you're giving is something you don't want to give, and what you think you're receiving is something you want. So y'all get misconcluded with y'all wants and y'all needs, and so it gets fucked up. So because the masculine is always going to be your wants, and your feminine is always going to be your needs in all realms of realities. So keep that in mind also. So now that we broke that all the way down as far as Mars metaphysically, let's talk about, because look, here's the circumstance or situation, right? Aries is going to play out the masculine version of Mars, and Scorpio is going to play out the feminine portion of Mars. Here's why. Because anytime someone plays as a roadblockage or obstacle, or trying to stop you from receiving your desires, passions, or experiencing, aka receiving your desires, passion, motivations, your intentions, your alternative motives, your goals. You see what I'm saying? Anytime as a person places a thing outside of you that's preventing you from experiencing these things, you jump into the masculine side of Mars, which is anger or aggression or transformation, or the ability to will yourself through that obstacle or circumstance or situation. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, you're dealing with two spectrums of Mars. So when you talk about Aries, they like to go out and be a trailblazer, or they go out and kill themselves. Now, when I say kill themselves, I'm just talking about going through circumstances and situations. So Mars loves to be in Aries because it gets to go out and initiate and create new ways of how to see and feel about things, because that's what cardinal fire is, Aries. So with Mars feel most comfortable here because it gets to take its passions, motivations, and desires and initiate new ways of how to see and feel about it. Therefore, it may develop competition, warlike energy, because it doesn't leave room or time to sit there and analyze other people's ways of seeing and feeling about things. So it's developing all that passion and war. So it leaves little to no time to even strategize. You see what I'm saying? Because it's just going to go for its imagination, its passions, and its intuition. Now, when we talk about Scorpio, this the feminine natures of it. So a lot of times it uses passions and its motivations and desires in a more subtle way, fixed water way. So this would be the feminine side of Mars. Mars loves to be here also. Mars is in this comfortable state. This is home here. So for the most part, and a little more home than Aries on the real tip, because everything comes from the feminine first. So when we talk about the circumstance of the situation of Mars and Scorpio playing out the feminine natures of it, right? This makes Mars a little bit more strategizing and things of that nature, because it gets to take its passions, motivations, and desires, and it being back to supported by fixed water, being fixated on its own emotions and feelings. You see what I'm saying? So by it being fixated on its own emotions and feelings, it gets to transform, aka melt that Scorpio ice, and gets to take those fixated emotions and feelings and have a desire, passion, motivation, and intent, aka get to will that imagination into existence in a more strategic way. You know what I'm saying? So, it has two natures to it when we talk about Mars. And Scorpio and plays out the feminine, and Aries plays out the masculine. Now we have something that creates the balance, which is the exaltation. So the exaltation planet is where a star or a planet always wants to be. So it's that space and location that it always wants to be. And that space and location 9 times out of 10 creates a balance between its masculine and feminine energies and gets to be in a whole new total element utilizing both of its own natural energies. So when we talk about Capricorn, Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So this is like a child at Disneyland, or this is like a business shark who just have inked the best deal possible. You see what I'm saying? Or a female who just got her hair done in a way that no other female got her hair done before. So for the most part, this is where a star always wants to be. So when you somewhere that you always want to be, don't overexhaust yourself. Don't play too hard, because you could wear yourself out to the point that could become distasteful. But for the most part, you're having a very good experience. So look at that like Mars being in Capricorn. So Mars being in Capricorn, what is Capricorn? Cardinal Earth, initiating and creating new ways of how to think and be practical. So with Mars right here, it gets to utilize its masculine energies, its feminine energies, and bring it as a balance in order to create a shape and form or a status or a realm of reality that's backed and supported off its passions, its motivations, its desires. You see what I'm saying? So we're in a realm of reality that's ruled by a bunch of Earth-like stars. So anytime you take your passions and really have a whole bunch of motivation behind you, what happens? You inspire people, and that motivation allows you to accomplish a goal. So with Mars being in Capricorn, it gets to take its Aries, Scorpio, aka its masculine and feminine natures, and actually see the fruition of that, actually get from point A to point B with that, actually create a status, actually create a foundation, a state of being, an organization from that. So this right here is where Mars loves to be at. And a lot of time Mars can overexhaust itself here. You know what I'm saying? Because it can take all this initiating and creating new ways of how to see and feel about things, and then having a fixated way of how to feel and deal with the emotions behind it, and construct this big ass world that actually get constructed, aka a motherfucking business. So people who got Mars in Capricorn know how to organize and construct a motherfucking business out of their creativity and imagination and their feelings and emotions behind it. You see what I'm saying? So you have to keep that in mind. So that's the deep psychology behind Mars and it being in its spaces and location. So you have to look at it that it's at home because it vortex by default in this way. All planets vortex in their own way. So the spiral rotation that Mars has, that's going between the 1st and the 8th house. So boom. First and 8th style. This is home. This is home of a rotation. Now, anytime it has a transit and it slide over a little bit and goes here, this is the 10th house. This is where this is where it loves to be. You see what I'm saying? But here's the thing. It falls in the opposite of that rotation. So it's sleep here. This is when it goes sleep. Before it's on its travel of its full rotation and going back to a home state. AKA bouncing back from the 1st and 8th house. So when it is in the 8th house, it's back home. It's like it doesn't look at it like it's different. The 1st and 8th house is really the same to it. So it's just when it moves over, the exaltation and it getting wore out from its exaltation, aka the fallen state, which will be Cancer, it sees that kind of like the same too. It's just Capricorn will be at its highest state. Cancer will be when it goes to sleep at its lowest state. You know what I'm saying? But it's not its equator state as far as it being its own solar plexus of the being it is. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just home bouncing back left to right. Right brain, left brain. Solar plexus wise. You know what I'm saying? That's why what y'all need to understand is when y'all looking at say like the Zodiac wheel, right? Which is the animal kingdom. So you live in an animal. And this animal you live in is the light bearer. I don't want to say Lucifer because that get people offended for some strange reason. But look, y'all know how y'all got the Zodiac wheel, right? And y'all be always trying to correlate the sun, and this is each sign, right? You need to understand. You need to look at it like this. This will be a person's body, top to feet. So you're not seeing a body. What you're correlating is their solar plexus going around them. So your solar plexus go around you. and it goes up to the highest state and it goes down to the lowest state. And you got a bunch of solar plexus you created for yourself that's rotating you like that. But it's going around you like that. So y'all blood cells, when y'all go outside and look up and think the sun is going over y'all head, that's just because y'all got led by a spirit that taught y'all how to stand up right and made y'all all lost and got y'all own direction and shit. You know what I'm saying? But you need to understand the way you was born out, laying down, that is the way of the direction that this being is in. So the sun is not actually going over your head. What you're actually seeing is the being that you live in. Solar plexus go around it like this. Same way your solar plexus go around you like that. Motherfucker. It ain't till you start standing up in this being and you think the sun start going over your head. It's not. It's when you lay down, you understand that the sun is going. So your solar plexus is doing the same goddamn shit. You see what I'm saying? So that's when you get into motherfucking Mars. So that's when y'all got it. How y'all probably be looking at it wrong, because y'all be looking at flat sheets of paper and take things as is, or flat things. But you have to correlate everything to 3 dimension so you can kind of understand it. So for the most part, like when your solar plexus is going around you, this is your equator. You know what I'm saying? Your left or right. So that plexus, or it might not even be the solar plexus. Mars is the root. They all doing the same shit though. You just got one that's doing that in this area. That goes over all of them. You know what I'm saying? But it's always constantly rising. That's what you need to understand based upon just the space and the body of the being you in. But that's another video. So equator rise, that's left or right. So left will be the masculine energy portraying. Right would be the feminine energy portraying. So if Mars at its plexus area, that's it bouncing back and forth from Aries, Scorpio. So like I said, how y'all see it'd be like this, where Mars is doing to you. You know what I'm saying? So your 8th house is right here, your sexual organs and things of that nature. And your 1st house is up here, your head. So now you see how Mars is spiraling? You see how Mars spiral you, your Mars plexus? That chakra, you see how it's correlating to you. So you get signals from your sexual organs to your head and your brain, and you get signals from your brain and your head down to your sexual organs. So that Mars planet be traveling all the transformating cells and shit. They got their own little system. We could go through all the chakras and shit, but we just don't talk about that one for right now. You see what I'm saying? So you have to understand that's it going its right or left in its type of spiral. So that's the equator. Then once we talk about the ecliptic, that's when it rise and go down. You know what I'm saying? Rise and go down based upon its transit, its position. This is why Mars sometimes be in spaces it don't like to be in, aka the 2nd house, the throat, and the 7th house, which is the hip. So anytime it move from Aries and Scorpio and start to move as a transit and start to slide like this, boom, it's going from the throat to the hip, the splitting of the body right there. That's Taurus, Libra, Taurus, Libra, Taurus, Libra. It don't like to be in those houses. You see what I'm saying? It don't like to be those houses. Then once that chakra will do like the 3, you got it from the kneecaps to Cancer, the heart space. It likes to be right here in Capricorn, which is the kneecaps, because it gets to get willpower and shit like that, but then it don't like to be right here around the heart space. You know what I'm saying? So that it falls right there. It goes to sleep right there. You know what I'm saying? Mars goes to sleep right there, because all the passion, motivation, anger, and desire. Think about when you got too much anger on your heart, too much passion on your heart. You letting that chakra put too much energy on that other chakra, and it's wearing it down. So anytime you got too much anger, too much passion in your heart, it kind of wear you out, exhaust yourself. You could be sitting down all day and be angry about something and just get tired. Exhaust your fucking self. You see what I'm saying? You're using too much of that Mars energy, and you putting it in a space and location that it doesn't like to be in, and into that other space of that other chakra. You see what I'm saying? But Mars loves to be around here and around here and around here. Shit, that's the spots. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand, when we're talking about the ecliptic is not going to rise above the out layers of the body. You know what I'm saying? Your solar system going to stay within you. So this is your ecliptic, all your outside of your body, and your equator is the right to left, and your ecliptic is the highs and lows, but it's still the wrapping of the body. You see what I'm saying? And it's the wrapping of the being. This is why you see those stars, and they got the I mean, those maps or those zodiac wheels that got the man or woman standing there right there, and the sexual organ got the star, and got a star on the head, they got a star on the eyes, because everything is stars. You know what I'm saying? The whole body is a star. So, you know, yeah, this talking about Mars. I ain't even really get into all the signs. So I'm gonna get into the signs. Matter of fact, and then I'm gonna go live tonight also. So I just wanted to break down the energies of Mars. That's like the behind the scenes energies and shit like that. And it goes even deeper than that. Like, because we could talk about the birth of that actual plexus, that solar, because it came after the fact. Because one of the, that's a whole nother video. We're gonna go live tonight though. Flight boss, bitch. Goddamn air.